Hi, what's up you guys? My name's Alana. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Mental Health with Alana. If you're new here, please click the red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Also press the bell notification so you know every time I post a video. If you'd like to check out my Instagram, I'll put it up here on the screen. I post pretty regularly about disability and mental health content. So if you'd like to see more of me, go follow me on there. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about psychosis. I live with schizoaffective disorder bipolar type, which is a psychotic condition. It's a combination of schizophrenia and bipolar. So I want to talk about, did I know I was psychotic for the first time when I first started experiencing psychosis? So I started experiencing psychosis when I was about 19, and this would only happen when I was manic. So at the time I was just diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I started experiencing hallucinations, visual ones and auditory. So I was seeing things that weren't there, and I was also hearing voices talking to me. I also had delusions, quite a few delusions, which obviously I didn't know I was delusional. And I didn't think anything of the delusions. I thought they were real, they were true, and I thought that everyone else thought that they were real. And I had some odd beliefs and some weird things. I had what they would call magical thinking. So I would believe that my thoughts were causing events to happen. I thought that the neighbors were spying on me. I was very, very paranoid. If I was out walking and someone was walking behind me, I was like, they're following me. They're out to get me. I would think that the government was spying on me at times, through like my computer or my TV. And I had more than this, but these are just some of the ones that stuck out early on. As my condition progressed and got worse over time, the delusions got worse and they got stronger. An example of that would be my last psychotic episode. I thought our house was possessed by a witch because I kept seeing a witch. I was hallucinating one, and I was being told by the voices that my house was unsafe, that the neighbors across the road were spying on me and out to get me, and that my house wasn't safe and that it was possessed and that I shouldn't be living in my house. And so I wanted to leave the house, because I didn't want to stay here because I felt unsafe. So those are some examples of delusions. I've had many more, but those are just some of the key ones that stick out to me. But when I was 19, like I said, I was experiencing episodes of mania, and these episodes would bring on psychotic features, like psychotic symptoms. Now, at the time, I had a caseworker who was an occupational therapy who studied mental health, and I was under a team called YP, Young Person Early Intervention Team, which is a team for young people who've been diagnosed with like psychosis or like bipolar, schizophrenia, that type of thing. A lot of the people in the group had, and I know people have differing opinions on this, but basically all the people in the group, there's about 25 of us, every single person in that group had smoked weed quite a lot, or was still smoking it. I was the only person who had psychosis that wasn't related to that. And obviously other factors played into their psychosis, I'm sure. I know it's not just that, but I just wanted to mention that. So I was under this team and I told my occupational therapist about some of these beliefs that I had. Oh, and I also had times where I thought I was a fairy. And I told her this, but nothing was ever really done about it. They never really changed my medication. They never explained to me what delusions were, because I didn't know what delusions were. They never explained to me that these things weren't true. They didn't really educate me on psychosis. They educated me on bipolar disorder, but they didn't educate me on psychosis. Now, this was a really important time because my psychosis was actually starting to emerge and my schizoaffective disorder was starting to come out. And they just didn't really pick up on that. And they would often downplay my symptoms when I did bring them up. And I didn't like the psychiatrist I had either, who was a part of the team. He was a little bit condescending and would kind of gaslight you and be like, oh, it's not really that bad, or you didn't really have that symptom. I don't really think you have bipolar, when I clearly had bipolar. I mean, I've had bipolar since I was 14. So I'd been living with it for a really long time. I even had a mood diary. I tracked my moods. When I went under that team, I tracked my moods like consistently for ages. I don't know where all that paperwork's gone, but I consistently tracked my moods, and you could clearly see patterns of really bad depression and then mania. Like, quite full on mania. So I felt very invalidated by this team. So at the beginning, did I know I was having psychosis? No. I did not know what psychosis was. I think I knew that you could get psychosis when you're in mania, but I never really got told that or educated on or fully understood that. And it was a bit scary for me because I was experiencing hallucinations and all these things, and nobody seemed to really do anything about it or help me. So moving on, my psychosis got worse over time. I had more delusions, more extensive hallucinations, cognitive problems, paranoia, and this all ended up coming to a head when I turned 22. So in 2022, I had a 6-month psychotic episode. This episode was outside of a depressive episode and a manic episode. So I wasn't depressed and I wasn't manic. So it didn't meet the criteria for bipolar anymore. It met the criteria for what they call as schizoaffective disorder. Now, this was the first time that my psychiatrists at the time had actually listened to me and started to think, something's not right here. This isn't adding up. It doesn't make sense. The diagnosis of bipolar is no longer fitting. I still had bipolar, but it was no longer fitting solely as bipolar. And after being in a psychotic episode for 6 months, and from observing my behavior, what I was saying, watching me kind of thing, like what my body language was, from what my mum had said about me, my family had picked up on. Basically, I was in hospital for 6 months in a private clinic, and this psychiatrist said, I think you have schizoaffective disorder. Now, I was kind of shocked. I didn't even know what it was. I never heard of the name. I never knew what it was. I knew what schizophrenia was, and I obviously knew what bipolar was, but I didn't even know you could have schizoaffective disorder, and I didn't know there were different types of schizoaffective disorder. So with schizoaffective disorder, you can have either the depressive type, where you have depressive episodes with psychosis, or you can have the bipolar type, which I have, where you get depressive episodes, hypomania, and mania. Or you can just have depression and hypomania. But in my case, I get actual full-blown mania. Now, I didn't know what to think when she brought this up. I knew there was something wrong because I felt really off and I was hallucinating all the time. Like, it was bad. It was like 24/7 hallucinations. It was definitely very traumatic, and they weren't nice hallucinations. I spent about 6 months crying every day because I was just so overstimulated and so bombarded by hearing voices, multiple voices screaming at me, yelling at me, seeing things that were disturbing, feeling bugs crawling all over me and crawling in my hair. You know, it was just not a good time. So this is back in 2022. I also want to mention that at the time I was quite unwell with some other illnesses. So my ED was quite bad, and I was in denial that I had a problem, and I didn't think that I had anything wrong. So I was also having that play into the psychosis as well, and it was probably making the psychosis a lot worse. Now, so I didn't know that I was having psychosis until I got told. So that answers that question. But when I was told, what did I do? Well, I took the medications that my psychiatrist was prescribing. She got me assessed by another psychiatrist just to make sure that the diagnosis was the right diagnosis. She asked me a couple questions, and after a few questions, she basically said, yes, you definitely have schizoaffective disorder. So that was pretty like life-changing because my diagnosis was changed to such like a serious mental illness, which I had never even heard of. And it wasn't just the bipolar I was dealing with anymore. I was now dealing with increased like psychosis and psychotic symptoms. And this was really hard. This was a really hard time. I had to leave my job because I was under a lot of stress and I was very depressed, and I was starting to hallucinate at work. This is the beginning of the episode. I started to get hallucinations at work where I would hear people calling my name, people talking to me when there was no one else in the shop, and I was just working on my own. And at first I didn't think anything of it because I was a bit delusional, but then I started to think, this is really weird. Like, why is someone calling my name? Like, I would look around and like see if there was someone I knew, and there's like no one there. And then the voices changed and started to get really nasty and really horrible. And I was like, I don't even know what this is. I'd had hallucinations before, but like I said, from the age of about 19. But this, and I had been delusional as a teenager when I was manic and everything. But this, I also thought that people could read my mind. This is a long-standing delusion that I have that comes and goes. A lot of my other delusions now are managed by medication, but the one that always sticks out is that I think people are reading my mind, and can hear my thoughts. And this causes problems with socializing because I'm not paying attention to what the person's saying because I'm worried about, what am I thinking? Like, what if they hear what I'm thinking and then they think I'm a bad person? I get very paranoid, like they're reading my mind. I'd be out in shops with my mum and I would suddenly get these like psychotic attacks where I would think that everyone was out to get me, that I was unsafe, that people were reading my mind, that everyone was following me and looking at me, and we would have to leave the store and go home. So for me, psychosis was very scary. It was horrible. It was like living in a nightmare. I would equate it to living in a horror movie. The stuff that I saw visually and the things that I was hearing, like from the voices, was very disturbing and very unsettling, very horrible. I know some people's hallucinations are quite neutral, where it may just be chattering in the background, whispering, not being able to make out really what the voices are saying, voices saying nice things sometimes. But mine was never like that. Mine was always very malicious and horrible and very difficult to live with. But I think the thing is, when you are in psychosis, you don't know that you are in psychosis because to you, like, your thinking is so skewed and your view of the world is so different because you're so psychotic that you think that what you believe or what you're thinking and the delusions that you're having, you think they're 100% real. And no one can talk you out of them. Like I always say, there's no point in arguing with someone who's psychotic because you're not going to get anywhere. That person 100% believes it's like me believing that the sky is pink and seeing the sky is pink, but everyone around me is saying the sky is blue. And I'm like, but no, it's pink. I see it. Like I'm looking at it. So that's kind of what it's like with delusions. And with hallucinations, I would often find myself talking out loud to my hallucinations automatically without me having any control over my body. And I would be sitting there and I would start talking out loud to my hallucinations, and then I would start to hear myself speak, and it would click, and I would hear myself, and I'm like, why am I talking right now? Who am I talking to? And it's the most odd thing ever. It's very strange. It only happens when I'm really unwell, like quite severely psychotic. I'm now on a lot of medications that I'm on aripiprazole, which is an antipsychotic, and this medication has changed my life. It has, for the first time in years, it is the only medication that has taken away majority of my psychotic symptoms, kept my hallucinations away, kept my delusions at bay. I still do get hallucinations, but they're only auditory, and when I do get them, I can identify that they're a hallucination, unless I'm in a psychotic episode. So when I was in a psychotic episode in August, um, I think it was August of this year, I was very psychotic and had to go to the emergency department and got put in the acute care unit, which is a psychiatric unit that's locked. And I wasn't under a mental health act this time because I wasn't considered a danger to myself like the last time that I was in there. But it was very scary being in a not very nice place with psychosis. It was just very isolating and very scary, and it makes you feel really alone and like you don't know what's happening to you. And I was so unwell, and it wasn't until I started the aripiprazole that my life got better. and things changed. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about psychosis and did I know I was psychotic? Sometimes you can pick up on it and you do realize that you are, but other times you don't. Psychosis is really a break from reality, so it's very hard for you to tell that you're psychotic because, like I said, with the delusions, you believe that the hallucinations and the delusions and the beliefs that you have and the thoughts, you believe all of them are true and real, and you don't really second guess yourself. You don't question it because you're experiencing something that everyone else is not experiencing, but you don't know that. So it's a very weird thing, and it's taken me a long, long time to realize what the signs of it is and to pick up on it and to know what to do early on. If I'm starting to experience psychotic symptoms, I know to go to my psychiatrist, go to my GP. I tell them, they increase my medication, and like at the moment I'm on 20 milligrams of aripiprazole. I'm on a bunch of other meds as well for my bipolar and for my other conditions, but because I have other conditions other than schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type. But yeah, the medications have made a world of a difference and have helped me so much. And I'm so grateful for the aripiprazole because it honestly pulled me out of that psychotic state and stopped me having severe psychotic episodes now. And the only time I do have them is when I'm under extreme amounts of stress. Stress for me brings it on, and it brings on mania as well, which mania brings on psychotic symptoms as well. But yeah, I just want to make this video to explain that because I haven't really made a video on psychosis lately, and I think I made one, but I wanted to do some deep dives into psychosis. If you have a particular question about psychosis or schizoaffective disorder that you want me to answer, I can do that. Just comment it down below. Ask me any questions or DM me through Instagram and I can make a video answering your questions. I might even put a question box on my Instagram saying, what do you want to know about psychosis? And then you can put your answer in there and then I will do a Q&A video on it. Because I think it's a really important topic to talk about because people just don't understand and they think you're acting really weird and strange and they just don't get it. Because it can look really weird and unusual from the outside. And psychosis can come in many different forms and it can look like many different things. And everyone will have their own experience. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Please come back to watch my next videos. Check out my playlists. I've got plenty of videos on schizoaffective disorder. And yeah, make sure you subscribe and like, and I'll see you in my next video.